Baba Yaga. Baba Yaga. Deep in the dark parts of the forest, frail blackberry bushes and pale violets grew in patches of sunlight, but Marusa could not find what she was looking for. The little girl's mother had sent her to the village to buy turnips, but Marusa had lost the money along her way. She had wandered into the forest to search for turnips that might grow wild. Suddenly the ground began to tremble. Rabbits scurried under bushes and birds flew to the sky to hide in the clouds. Marusa put her ears to the ground. She heard a fearful thumping sound. Marusa remembered what her mother had said. Never enter the forest on the far side of the village, for that is the forest of Baba Yaga. Whenever the terrible-tempered old witch is restless, Mama Rusa's mother had warned her huts roam through the woods on chicken legs, so that Baba Yaga may search for bad Russian children to cook in a stew. Marusa forgot the wild turnips. She began to run, first one way, then another. Marusa, stop running! She stood very still. Ahead of her, in a clearing, stood Baba Yaga's hut. The hut was surrounded by a fence of bones and skulls. Marusa had hid behind a tree. She could hear noises inside the hut, as though someone were opening and shutting and rattling jars. The hut became silent, and Baba Yaga leaned out of the door. Her wild hair waved about her face. Her nose, that looked like a rain-spout, quivered and sniffed at the clearing. She clawed at the air with her long, bony fingers, gnashed her iron teeth, and snarled, "And I think I smell a bad Russian child." Then Baba Yaga disappeared into her dark hut. Marusa was too frightened to move, and she felt strangely tired. She leaned against the trunk of the tree and fell asleep. When Marusa awoke, she was sitting in a large pan surrounded by potatoes and onions. A lean cat was lying beside the stove, dreaming of fish heads and rats, and Baba Yaga was bent over a table. She was pulling petals from flowers and making neat piles of stems and leaves. Her elbows flapped beneath her cloak like vulture wings. Baba Yaga whirled for the wind, and her cat screeched into the air. The old woman shook salt and pepper into the pan. "Pardon me, Baba Yaga, but I am a good Russian girl," said Marusa in a very uncertain voice. She was thinking of her family without turnips for their supper. "A good Russian girl?" Baba Yaga shuddered as though Marusa was a toadstool. "I can't eat a good Russian girl for my dinner." The old woman pulled Marusa out of the pan. "But I can make you cook my dinner and sweep the hut and clear the clearing." So Marusa swept and cleaned the rest of the day. Then she cooked Baba Yaga's dinner. She lit a fire under the samovar to heat water for Baba Yaga's tea. The old woman ate a meal large enough for 10 men. Her stomach rumbled. She offered nothing to Marusa or to the cat. Baba Yaga's hut was a quiet place, except for the old hag's grumbling. Her cat never purred, and birds never chirped or dared to fly near the hut. So Marusa was startled when she heard a noise outside. In the last of the day, Marusa saw a horseman, dressed all in black, ride a black horse past the hut. He vanished into the gloom of night. Marusa looked to see if Baba Yaga had noticed the horseman, but Baba Yaga had climbed up onto the stove. The old woman yawned and shifted from one warm place to another until she was settled and snoring. Her cat licked the supper dishes until they were clean. Then he fell asleep. Marusa fell asleep too tired to be hungry. Marusa was awakened by another mysterious horseman. He was dressed all in white and rode a white horse from out of the sky forest. He galloped across the clearing and up into the sky. It was a new day. Baba Yaga was not in the hut, but the cat was coiled by the door. Suddenly, the rising sun disappeared behind the swirling black clouds. The sky rumbled with thunder and cracked with the lightning. Tree boughs snapped, blew across the clearing, and scratched against the hut. Baba Yaga swooped out of the storm riding a mortar. She was steering the mortar with a pestle and sweeping away her traces with a birch twig broom. Baba Yaga jumped to the clearing, and the mortar and pestle vanished into the air. Baba Yaga's cape smelled of smoke and sailed widely about her. Toads, blackberries, and mice darted from under her feet. Bats and owls flew from her hair. Baba Yaga tickled one of the chicken legs under her hut and chanted, Izbushka, lower your door to me." The chicken legs of the hut, called Izbushka, bent to the ground, and Baba Yaga climbed inside. Baba Yaga emptied a bag of leaves and flowers onto the table. Then she turned to Maruska and hissed, "You say nothing." "I don't dare," said Maruska timidly, "but I would like to ask—" "Ask," interrupted Baba Yaga, "but remember, every question that you ask will make me 1 year older." "I only wish to ask," whispered Maruska, "about what I have seen. Last evening a horseman dressed in all black rode a black horse through the clearing. Who was he?" "He was my moonless knight," answered Baba Yaga. "He is my obedient servant." "Early this morning I was awakened by another horseman dressed in white. He rode a white horse into the sky. Who was he?" "My fair day," said the old woman with great pride. Then she turned and shuffled across the creaking floor onto squeaky shoes. Baba Yaga stopped in front of a cabinet. She turned a key between a pair of teeth that grinned from the cabinet doors. The teeth snapped a few times, then the doors parted. Inside the cabinet, almost 100 jars were covered with spiders and webs and filled with leaves, herbs, roots, stems, and withered berries. Baba Yaga could sip boiled berries and crushed autumn leaves and stretch to 5 times her size. She would sprawl from one corner of the hut to the other until her hair tumbled from the window, her feet dangled the doorway, and her nose sniffed up the chimney. Baba Yaga could breathe a few thorns and cherry pits with birch sap, and then shrink to a tiny size, small enough to hide inside a thimble. Baba Yaga searched all day after day for rare herbs or hidden seeds to put in her cabinet, but there was just one jar in the cabinet that she could not fill. "One more jar," Maruska heard Baba Yaga mumble. "It waits for the petals of the sunflower that is black. If I can find the black sunflower, I will be able to live another 200 years. I will be able to cure my spell." She turned to Maruska. "You're too quiet, little girl." "I have only another question to ask," whispered Maruska. "One more question is all you may have, or I will grow too old. Choose it wisely." Baba Yaga locked her cabinet. The teeth clamped shut. "Baba Yaga, I wonder if I might have some turnips." "Turnips? When I have sausage and cabbage and plump fruit pies?" "I was sent to the village to buy turnips," continued Maruska, "but I lost the money my mother gave me, and—" "Then you are a bad Russian girl." Baba Yaga put Marusha back into the pan. Then she jumped out of the hut to gather mushrooms and parsley for the stew. Baba Yaga kicked a rooster out of her parsley patch and picked some parsley. She found a hedgehog sitting on top of a big mushroom, eating a mushroom. The hedgehog looked up at Baba Yaga and said, "Please, Babushka, don't kick me, for I have suffered enough." Baba Yaga thought the hedgehog might make a nice goulash. That should ease the suffering," she said to herself, and she put the hedgehog into the pan with Maruska. She sprinkled them both with parsley and mushrooms. "How do you do?" said the hedgehog to Maruska. "Where did you learn how to speak so well?" said Maruska. The hedgehog told Maruska his story. "Far, far away from here, Tsar and Tsarina live in a beautiful place. They have over 100 million rubles, but they have no children. Many years ago, a strange flower bloomed in the palace garden. The Tarsana would often sit in her garden and admire the flower. One day she thought aloud, if only I could have a son, were he no bigger than a hedgehog. The marvelous flower was enchanted. A hedgehog was born to the Tsar and the Tarzana." The hedgehog sighed and then continued, "The Tarzana and the Tarzana had me educated by tutors, and by the time I was 7 I had learned all that I could. When the country learned that the Tsar and the Tarsana had a hedgehog instead of a son, the people laughed and laughed louder and louder until the Tsar and the Tarsarina could hear the laughter over the palace wall. The Tsar and the Tarsarina were ashamed. The hedgehog leaned back against an onion. His voice trembled. They set me upon a rooster and banished me into the forest, hoping that I would be eaten by a wolf or a bear. That was over a year ago. Since then, I have hardly enough to eat. I know only the ways of an educated person, and life as a hedgehog bewilders me. Marusa felt sorry for the little hedgehog. She thought a while. Then she said, "The flowers that you speak of, it must be very unusual." The hedgehog drew closer to Marusha. It was a most curious flower. It was a sunflower, but it is black. Marusa stood up in the plan. "Baba Yaga has searched all Russia for the black sunflower. Tell me, little hedgehog, where is the palace that you have talked about?" "Only I know a way," answered the hedgehog. "Quiet!" growled Baba Yaga. She clapped a cover onto the pan. Marusa and the hedgehog whispered for a while inside the pan. Then they lifted the cover, just high enough for Marusa to shout, "I know where your black sunflower is!" Then they slammed the cover down and waited. Baba Yaga pulled the cover from the pan. Her eyes were as wide as 2 moons. Her iron teeth chattered. "What did you say about the black sunflower?" "If you will give me some turnips, I will tell you," offered Marusha. "When the sunflower is mine, the turnips will be yours," bargained Baba Yaga. "Where may the black sunflower be?" "If we follow the hedgehog, he will lead us to it," said Marusa. She helped the hedgehog out of the pan. Baba Yaga and Marusa flew above the hedgehog for 3 nights and 4 days until they reached a mountain. The hedgehog climbed halfway up the mountain and disappeared into a hole. Baba Yaga had to shrink herself to half her size and squeeze Marusha out into the hole behind her. They followed the hedgehog through a long winding tunnel until they reached daylight once again. A magnificent palace sparkled in front of them. The mortar and pestle reappeared, and they all flew over the palace wall and into the garden. Baba Yaga leaped from the mortar and trembled over lilies, lilacs, and roses until she had found the black sunflower. She pulled at the enchanted flower, and as soon as the black sunflower left the earth, the hedgehog turned into a little boy named Dmitri. Baba Yaga was in too much of a hurry to notice that the hedgehog had turned into a little boy. She flew off in a swirling black cloud with the black sunflower and the children, and they were gone before the Tsar and the Tarzarna had any before been in the garden. After they had returned to the hut, Maruska had reminded her. Baba Yaga gave Marusa some turnips. Then Baba Yaga put Marusa and Dmitri back into the pan. "This is a fine reward," cried Marusa, "after we help you find the black sunflower." "You have your turnips, that is enough reward," snapped Baba Yaga, "and naughty girls make such tasty stew." "But I am not a naughty girl," said Marusa. "You lost your mother's money, that is very naughty," said Baba Yaga. She rubbed the garlic around the pan. "But I did get what I was sent for." Marusa sneezed. The garlic was strong. "Turnips!" Baba Yaga lifted the good girl out of the pan. "So you did," she sighed, "but the hedgehog will be good for the stew." "But I am not a hedgehog," laughed Dmitri, although he was still wearing a hedgehog suit. Baba Yaga studied the boy. "These eyes of fire do not see too well," she said. "Why, you are a little boy. You would make a terrible hedgehog stew." The happy children ran around the hut. They poked into cupboards and took books from the shelves. They chased the cat and begged Baba Yaga to open her cabinet. Baba Yaga, who had used to a quiet life with only her cat and treasure, grumbled, "I can't have children around here. Their endless questions make my old bones ache." Early the next morning, when the horseman rode his white horse out of the night, Baba Yaga took the children and ran out to the clearing. She stopped the rider and lifted children onto his horse. Then Baba Yaga ran back to her hut. The chicken legs bent to the ground, and the old woman climbed inside and slammed the door. Marusa and Dmitri rode off into the dawn. They rode out of the clearing, beyond the forest, and away from Baba Yaga. They rode all the way back to Maruska's cottage. And they had turnips for supper. The end.